I feel like feather boas are a rite of passage for queer youth.
I get a feather boa. I'm Dusty Childers, and I am one of the voiceover artists of The Shawl.
I'm Shane O'Neill. I'm also a voice artist and subject of The Shawl, as is Stevie Nicks, which is important to remember.
She doesn't say anything. We talk for her.
It's unauthorized, but she's very present. It's a movie about two fat people falling in love and remaining in love to this day. The Shawl, the feel of it is representative of like the joys of being like an adult who falls in love. And it's not about like it's not about the darker elements.
I grew up Southern Baptist. And so my sister was what, now it's not a tomboy, but my sister was tomboyish. And I was very, very incredibly flamboyant as a child, if you can imagine. They would go, we don't want to call God a liar, but it seems like your sister should have been born a boy and you should have been born a girl. I tried very hard to sort of like man up, as they say, and it just didn't work. It didn't take. I got Lauryn Hill's second album, the Unplugged album, and so she has this song called I Get Out. I mean, I'd listen to it in the car, like on repeat, and I would say in my car as I drove around, I would be like, hey, I'm Dusty, I'm gay. I would just like say it over and over in the car, hoping that one day I would like actually get to say it.
I grew up in a very supportive community at large. It took, my parents a little while to get used to it. But I think about how impressed I am with people like Dusty, and more than that, people who came before us who like didn't have any language or support. Because I had, compared to everyone else, I was one of the people who started the GSA at my school. I went to like a gay youth conference when I was in high school. I knew gay adults, I knew kids in high school who came out, and I still had a really hard time coming to terms with myself. I came out very indelicately over and over again to my family, where like, it's a complicated story, but my parents caught me kissing a gentleman on the mouth when I was 14 years old. And it was a chaste kiss. It wasn't like it was my boyfriend, but they were just like, oh my God. And it caused like a big, seismic, first of all, no one wants to think about their 14-year-old kissing anyone of any gender. So it sort of forced them to confront things. So I think that I misinterpreted them being like, we don't want our 14-year-old to be kissing anyone, to be like, we don't want our son to be gay. I think there's so many stories that are out there about how hard it is that even though it was easy for me, I was sort of waiting for it to be hard on a certain level.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I think I was sort of always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it wasn't until I was like 25 that I was just kind of like, oh, like my life, I have a right to be happy. Like my life can be good and I don't have to like be scared of some homophobic event happening to me. I developed these really great friendships in my late teens and early 20s of people who were extremely supportive. We met camping by a campfire. And personally, I was like in a very transitional point in my life. I had just decided to move to New York City. I had just formally sort of said to myself, like, okay, like it's time to stop pretending that you just want to like hook up with people. It's time to be like, you're looking for a boyfriend, look for a boyfriend. And then we walked into each other's lives.
He has this tattoo on his belly that says fancy, right? In Old English, a la Tupac Shakur, right? Anyways, it says fancy, and it's like and he's like a very pale person, so it really sticks out. And so he had on this like blue, cerulean blue, gorgeous, like one-shouldered,
Leg of mutton.
One leg of mutton crop top. You know how your eyes can just sort of like, I zoomed in. There were these little things dangling from the edge, from the hem. And I was like, oh, that can't be. Fake fingernails that he'd put little holes in and sewn them. They're dangling here like paillettes. Right, and it's like the big sequence, right? And they're just dangling along, and I was like, that's it. Now he's been living with me for 8.5 years. So his transition into living in New York was the most cushy.
Very easy.
Yeah.
People hate me because they're like, do you have any advice about finding an apartment in New York? I'm like, move in with your boyfriend. What I also love about The Shawl in terms of our relationship is, obviously I think all of us, all human beings, but especially queer people, have like a lot of, struggles and sads and bad times. But I think that you've been a really big bright spot in my life, in our relationship, and our...
Speak for yourself.
If you're not in a place where you can be safe being who you are, be safe before you can be honest. And then once you're safe, be honest. And don't be scared to be experimental while being safe. You walk with a friend at night, you wear a condom, take your PrEP, do the things that you have to do to stay safe. But within those boundaries of staying safe, get weird and try to find out what being honest is. And I guess the last thing I would say is just remember that the rewards for being honest are great.
And know that if you're in a situation where your family is causing you trauma, just because they birthed you, just because there's a bloodline there, that doesn't mean anything. And this is the RuPaul thing, like finding your own family, but I cannot overstate it.
Being honest with people about who you are has rewards that I never would have expected. But I had that because I had the luxury of being safe and being in a community of people where it was not like a physical threat to me.
Think back on like moments of pure joy and analyze, I mean, it sounds like a lot, but like analyze what made that a joyful moment, and then sort of try to figure out how to replicate that. Then if you're replicating it enough, then you can sort of start to live your life that way. That's like how I did it. I just sort of was like, okay, like that was really cool. So then how can I do that more often?
I'm Shane.
I'm Dusty.
We are here to tell you
It gets better.
It's better.